broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
You guys, thank you for tuning in to the AfterBuzz TV Doctor. I'm still processing last night's episode of Doctor Who, so thank you so much for joining us to talk about a very, very big episode for Doctor Who. I'm your host, Zach Wilson. You can tweet at me throughout the week, throughout the show, at that Zach Wilson, and also using the hashtag ABTVDoctorWho. So, I want to let me introduce my fantastic panel. Clearly, I'm still processing, you guys.
You're like on the edge of tears. The verge of tears?
Well, no, I'm not, and we'll get into that. I'm just processing. My brain is doing a lot of things right now. Yael Tygiel's here.
Hi, guys. You can tweet at me during the show at Yael Tygiel. It's YAELTYGIEL. I know my IEL. That's a letter. I'm also in the chat roll, reading your comments, reading some negative stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I want to hear about that.
Also, we're not taking a moment of silence for Clara.
No.
Who are you?
I'm Tauri J. Miller. You can find me at Tauri J. It's TAURIJAY. Bam!
I'll take a moment of loudness for the death of Clara. Hey! Okay. VT Animation says emotional. But I don't feel overly emotional. I want to get, but before I give my full thoughts, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think?
Frustration is an emotion, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, that is it. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, you were frustrated.
I think so. I felt like this episode, there were a lot of things that I loved. I absolutely loved. And then the last 2, 3, 5, however long minutes, I was like, yeah, I don't care what's happening. And then it happened and I went, yeah, I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. I know there are articles and everyone's saying it. I don't believe that's the last time we're seeing her. Absolutely not.
You don't think she's dead, or you don't think that's the last time we're seeing Jenna Coleman?
I know for a fact it's not for a fact based on rumors on the internet. I know for a fact that is not the last time we're seeing Jenna Coleman. I felt like for a death scene, it didn't tug at my heartstrings the way I feel like death scenes are supposed to on this show when we lose a companion. And therefore, I feel like there might be more to this death that will eventually lead to a proper death that does kill us all.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
Tari, what are you thinking?
I mean, I also liked elements of this episode. I felt just to kind of piggyback off the emotional aspect of it. I would say that it's like if you see a magic trick over and over and over, it loses its magic every time because essentially you're not in wonderment anymore. And I feel like we've seen Clara die so many times that at this point, nothing that could have happened could have shocked us. Nothing could have made us that emotional because we've seen it and it gets less and less impactful every time.
That's fair because remember, guys, this is effectively the 5th time that Clara has quote unquote died in front of our eyes. She died as Oswin Oswald when we first met her. She died as the
nanny.
The nanny. I'm sorry, I can't remember what her exact name was for that version of her. She died in last year's Christmas special in a fake out. It was quick, but it was also remember that episode was written to be Jenna Coleman's finale. And then they rewrote a scene at the end. That's why that that ending felt tacked on, because it was.
Right.
It was literally tacked on at the end when Jenna Coleman said she wanted to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the very beginning of this season, we thought they left us on a cliffhanger of Jenna Coleman died from the Daleks.
Yeah.
Right.
And Davros.
And you can't forget about when she jumped into the Doctor's time stream and died.
Yeah, I guess we could count that one too. I just... that one was reversed so quickly, I almost don't count it. But yeah, so either 5 or 6 times we've watched Clara die, and this felt this is for me what frustrated me was it wasn't as emotionally powerful as the Christmas special when she could have left. That one, when I was watching that and I thought, oh, this is going to be Jenna Coleman's last episode, and like the potential ending with her as an old woman who's had to just go her whole life with this, that was emotional. I got emotional at that ending.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they reversed that one and we move on. Okay, that's fine. That's Doctor Who. You keep moving forward. But her actual out shouldn't be less emotional than the fake out.
Yeah, and the fans in the chat room are totally agreeing. We have Simply Sam Cooper saying anticlimactic for sure. MN says it was pretty underwhelming death scene. Who Say You 11 says no payoff for Clara. There's just a lot of people agreeing with us.
Right.
Now, that said, I will say that there were some very interesting things for Clara in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Some things that they've really... was all of what Moffat was selling us when he first introduced Clara to us, is that she's different from any other companion.
Mm-hmm.
She's the doctor companion. And I think in this episode, I really started to realize what was happening with this companion compared to some other ones. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on what I think I either realized or I'm starting to theorize after watching this in retrospect of Clara's whole time. Mm-hmm. Clara is really the first companion to suffer or just live with a very realistic psychology of how a person would react to traveling with the Doctor. And this episode especially, because in this episode we really see her throwing caution to the wind, because she has survived against all odds countless times, like every companion does. They get right up to the edge of death every day, every week, and the Doctor pulls them back. There's something that they can do to save the day. The Doctor always has a solution. But at a certain point, that kind of that embeds itself in your psychology, in just in your mind. You start to think, I'm invincible.
Yeah.
And the Doctor's 2,000 years old. Everyone, but fictional, non-fictional, everyone has that certain amount of denial of mortality for a bunch of their lives. And Clara's fairly young in this show. So she's still at that age where mortality denial is very much a part of who people are. That idea that, intellectually, you're gonna die one day, but there's this little piece of you that thinks, and it's true for a lot of people, that thinks, I'm not gonna die. Somehow I'm gonna live forever. Like I said, intellectually that's not true, but there's this nagging voice in the back of your head that thinks, I could live forever. I'll find a way. But Clara's been shown that. She's watched the Doctor die in front of her when he should have died completely, even as a Time Lord, and still survive. So to her, why couldn't she be invincible?
Yeah, there are a lot of people in the chat room disagreeing with us as well. We have Sydney saying, I don't think it was underwhelming. Johnny B says, I wish she didn't go. Sydney points out that she was trying to be the Doctor essentially just like last year, and that ultimately backfired and killed her because she was trying to be too clever.
Yes.
And that I really like. That's the thing. It's I'm not entirely negative about this episode. That aspect, I think this episode delivered more than almost any other episode that she's had, is that idea that Clara thinks she's on par with the Doctor. The problem is we just haven't had that for the rest of the season, but this episode delivered it.
The Dreaming Days says, I like that she died because of her own mistake, though. Nice dramatic device.
Yeah.
And people are agreeing.
And the Doctor has to live with the fact that she made a bad decision that led to her death. It wasn't his decision making, but it's almost worse. It's just being with him that caused her to make that kind of decision.
Right.
It's not like Amy and Rory. Like, and we have to compare to the other exits.
Right.
But Amy and Rory, for me, I loved that exit for them. And but that exit was because of an external force. That the Doctor just wasn't powerful enough, wasn't quick enough to stop.
Yeah.
But you could blame the external forces.
Right.
The true reason that she died was because of how the Doctor influenced her as a person. That led to her bad decision making.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that bad decision making led to her death. And so I think that's even worse for the Doctor than any other companion's fate.
I mean, we had seen him essentially trying to wean her off of his influence over the course of this season, where he kept trying to get her to get a hobby because he saw that she was everything that he didn't like about himself. And so essentially at a certain point, and she was getting reckless mostly because when you have someone you love die, you kind of either have this, she seemed to have a lot of survivor's guilt in that, like, why him and not her? And so I think that she got to a point where she sees that her friend is running, and he is, you know, in her eyes, like the epitome of like the perfect, like he has his flaws, but he is a hero. And so she figured that was the best way to be. And so, but like, yeah, I agree that ultimately her decision got her killed. But I feel like in comparing her to Amy, like Amy was on the same level in that Amy would have been able to break down what the Doctor would have done, but Amy would have never had the thing transferred onto herself. And I think that's the main difference, is that like I felt like Amy had more of a resolve and self-worth to kind of like know where the boundaries were, but I feel like Clara was coming apart so much that she couldn't see past her own desire to be clever.
You don't think that if Rory had the counter, Amy wouldn't have taken it?
If Rory had the counter, but
Right.
that's very different than Riggsy.
Right.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even know Riggsy.
But you're right, though. It would have been different. Amy was the Doctor's companion.
Right.
Clara is more. This isn't the right word, but I want to say sidekick.
I was going to say like teammate or playmate.
Teammate, like sort of the Robin, like when Robin's more of an adult
Right.
to Batman. Like they are partners. One is clearly more in charge than the other and ultimately has the say, but
Right.
separated, they both are effective.
Right.
Kind of thing. But whereas Amy is like a buddy that like they work together and she can absolutely do things on her own. I don't have a proper superhero analogy prepared for this, so I apologize.
Amy's like Wonder Woman teaming up with Batman, whereas Clara is Nightwing.
I don't know if that analogy holds up, but I like where your head's at.
I love you, Morris.
But yeah, basically, Clara is striving to be the Doctor. So, Nightwing is a good analogy there.
Yeah.
All of my analogies are Doctor Who references. Like I can't compare this to other companions.
But yeah, so they would have approached it very differently. I'm not sure how Donna would never have done that. She'd be have taken the clock.
Yeah.
She would have been like, Doctor, what are we gonna do? Like, been trying to figure stuff out around it, but that's just too reckless for Donna.
Yeah.
Yeah. She would have also cried for like 5 minutes straight.
And we would have loved it.
I know. I love crying Donna.
Because she cared so much.
She really did.
G1X Rider points out is more equal than any other companion relationship. They really, as not in terms of respect, because I think the Doctor has an equal level of respect for all of his companions.
Except for Martha.
I meant... fair.
Sad.
I guess in my head, mainly as the companions, I'm thinking of like Rose, the biggest ones being Rose, Amy, and Clara now. Just tenure-wise. I'm leaning on tenure.
I'm not accepting you skipping people. Go on.
No,
No,
I
know.
love Donna. Donna's my number 2 companion.
I know.
Yeah. But you
I
mean
was
like
just
in
saying-
terms of length of stay?
I'm
with
talking
the
about the
Doctor.
biggest ones in terms of like they had the longest tenure on the show. Rose had 2 years, Amy had 2.5, Clara had 2.5. That's why I used those 3.
Moving on.
Anyway,
But Martha's still the
and
best.
I'm not including classics because that's just we don't have time.
Yeah.
Right.
So sorry to anybody who's
How
about
would
to yell at
Jamie
me.
have reacted?
I wonder how Ace would have handled this.
Oh
I
my
have
gosh.
no idea.
Susan? Guys.
Okay.
I have no
sorry.
idea how Aldrich would have reacted to the situation.
Let's talk about Adam. You guys don't remember Adam, and that's okay.
All right. Let's talk about future companion. No, later.
Later.
Trust me, later.
Yeah.
Okay. So, any other thoughts on Clara's death? Not that we'll completely shelve it. We can
Right.
come back to it.
Yeah.
But before we talk about the rest of the episode,
I liked the way it was shot. I mean, it was really beautifully done. Like, if we look at it just in terms of television and not in terms of narrative,
Right.
it was a really well done sequence where she says her goodbye and walks out and is alone in the street as people run away, and then we see her from a distance, and it was a really well
I
made piece of
almost
television.
agree with you. I
Okay.
hate when a show there was a part of the direction and the editing that I will just say I just didn't like
But it is
straight
a
up.
pet peeve of yours. Go on.
I don't like when they show this the like the moment of death or the big moment of things the same like again and again and again.
Oh, yes.
And just like look at different shots. If it was providing us more information by looking at it from different angles, then that would be fine, but it didn't. It was
Yeah.
just like, look at it. She's dying. She's dying again.
Feel
Again.
sad.
Again.
Feel sad.
Again. It was just, I didn't need to be hammered over the head with it. We're watching her die. Repeat, like jumping back in that second like 5 times was just unnecessary.
Right.
I disagree.
To me, it softened the emotional blow
Okay.
as opposed to if it had just happened and you had to slowing it down. That would be fine with
Yeah.
me, but it's the repetition that I
Right.
think steps on itself.
Right. Well, I think that, yeah, I am in between you two in that, like, I thought it was a good sequence. I think that the repetition was too many. Like, I think 3 would have been fine.
Oh, yeah.
But we
Yeah.
just did it, like, 6 times. And it was only, like, a millimeter of change between the cameras. So that was my main thing about it, is that it wasn't, like, close-up, far thing. It was just, like,
It
close-up,
wasn't-
slightly closer, close-up. Close-up, mid-shot, close-up.
It wasn't Doctor's perspective, me's perspective, weird Cyberman in a cloaking
Cyrus the
field.
Buck says,
Yeah.
they keep killing Clara. All right.
Anyway, so but how we got to here?
Yes.
Riggsy has the death clock
Yeah.
on his some sort of death clock on the
Toki
back of his
Wartooth.
neck.
Yes.
Not a bumblebee.
What?
Toki Wartooth, not a bumblebee. Death clock, death clock, death clock, death clock.
Oh, I was making a Futurama reference.
I was making
Okay.
a death clock reference.
There's something on your back.
Ah, nice.
All I
Doctor
could do
Who.
is make Doctor Who
Hey,
references.
So good.
I like Clara gave he's like, call this in case of
Yeah.
emergencies. Who said you could give out my number? That was cute. And then they it's just like little tidbits. You've been retconned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was great. I liked it. I feel like there will be nerds who are like, that's just stupid. It's a nerd word. I don't know. I in my head there are people reacting that way, but I loved it.
I mean, was highly wrong. It was used inappropriately, guys. I mean, technically, when you say something's retcon, I mean, it's retroactive continuity, and so you're essentially changing what was already established. But that's not what they did. They effectively erased his memory, so it's not really retroactive continuity, guys.
Retcon is also something that is constantly used in the beginning of Torchwood. In I believe the first episode of Torchwood, and I believe it was also referenced to that.
Oh, you're totally right. I haven't watched the pilot of Torchwood in like 3 years.
In
so
case
I totally
haven't
forgot.
mentioned, all I can do is make references to Doctor Who.
But that was good.
Torchwood, same thing. Oh, everyone's shouting Torchwood. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Captain Jack's there. I'm there.
It's just been a long time since I watched it. I forgot. But that's great. It's even better.
Yep.
I thought it was interesting that in the TARDIS, and tell me what you guys think, if this was a moment or if it was just overanalyzing. The Doctor hesitated to help Rigsy. He almost just was like, "Have fun with your problem."
But I feel like it was very just the Doctor being the Doctor.
Was that just him thinking before he started?
Kind of.
Well, I feel like this Doctor is always trying to be the man that like Clara wants him to be, or the man that like people think the Doctor is. And so I felt like that moment was him being like, "This is inevitable. You're going to die," and then them like asking for hope, and so him trying to put that face on is what I felt like it was.
Okay. That was rather than hesitation, it was, I'm getting ready to be optimistic.
Right.
Which he has to go through flashcards, and he's like, there's no good way to tell you you're gonna die.
I'm gonna be honest, that's really surprising to me that she didn't make him a card for that.
Yeah.
Like, of all the cards that they had, I'm really shocked that that's not in there.
Or that
he lost it.
He could have had it even in there and just didn't think it was satisfactory.
Right.
You're going to die.
That's
okay.
But I think the Doctor's flipping through there and sees a very nice way of giving somebody that information, and it's like, this isn't nice. This isn't helpful. He
doesn't know that.
I mean, but in my mind, that's what the decision was.
Right.
So then they go on this hunt they wind up looking for the trap street.
Yeah.
After this whole process. Literally just Doctor Who going to Diagon Alley.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, not even subtle about it. Like, no one thinks that this is not a Harry Potter, like a loose Harry Potter reference.
I'm really surprised they didn't just call it out.
Yeah. Like Clara, you'd think would have been like, this is like Harry Potter. What's happening here?
Oh, you mean like in Harry Potter? Yeah, that's all.
Right.
I wonder if it's like, they're like, we don't want to get sued by Warner Brothers.
Sued by Warner
BBC's like, we don't have enough money.
JK would show up and be like, what the hell?
She's like down the street. Your castle's like right
seriously.
near Cardiff, right?
I don't know where her castle
totally.
is.
England's not that big.
It's a 3-hour bus ride, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I literally wrote on my paper, they are muggles getting into Diagon effing Alley.
Yeah, absolutely.
I even wrote down the effing because I knew I couldn't swear on this program. And they get inside, and then they see the projections over these people. Mm-hmm. I know that half of our fans won't know what the hell I'm talking about, and the other half will. Did that not look like a Bloot bot?
Oh, absolutely.
When
yes, that was absolutely a grim character.
I was like,
right there.
There's a Bloot bot in this like Doctor Who episode, and I don't understand what's happening because I just watched Grimm.
Walker the Seventh says they reference Harry Potter before, and yes, they have referenced Harry Potter before in specifically the Shakespeare Code.
They have made reference to it.
This was literally.
There could be an argument. It was. I would argue that it is not theft.
All right.
If anything, it is an homage
Sure.
that is perhaps insinuating that J.K. Rowling is an alien and wrote a story based on this street.
Sure, I'll take it.
there is touchy legal ground when you do something like that.
And it's different than when they make specific reference.
You can make a joke about something, especially something in the pop culture lexicon like Harry Potter.
Just to clarify for everyone in the channel.
They're teeing themselves up for a major company like Warner Brothers that you don't want that fight.
Sure.
I know people who have had to fight that fight over Harry Potter stuff.
Sydney in the chat is going, Bloop bot. Sorry, it's a Grimm reference. Moving on.
Yeah.
Watch Grimm. After show. Sunday nights at 6 p.m. here on AFTERBUZZ TV.
This panel.
With the same people.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we get the street and Mayor Me.
Yay, Mayor Me!
Very cool performances from Maisie Williams.
Oh,
I think it brilliant performance. Actually, like I will not hesitate to say.
Yeah.
Because this version of a Shielder is very similar to the last one, the one in the 1800s.
Yeah.
But also distinctly different.
Absolutely.
Very much like that woman that's sure of herself is very confident, very like I will get my way because I am me.
Yeah.
But at the same time there is a different, she carries herself differently.
Yeah.
In very subtle ways. I don't even know what words I could use to describe it, but it just felt very slightly different.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's an air of compassion at the same time of being very authoritative, which I thought was really an interesting twist on it, because she was ruthless before, but now she has a purpose, and you can feel that in the character.
This is an interesting point from Boo in the chat roll. Me is a mini version to Missy. And I want to just bring that up because that's an interesting point. It's not the first time I've seen a comparison of the two. What do you guys think?
Is it possible that they're the same?
No, not they are the same person.
Just wanted to make sure that we're not going down that crazy version.
No. But just that is me developing into an enemy for the Doctor, as opposed to somebody like when we first basically were pitched this concept of me as sort of the Doctor's cleanup crew.
Yeah.
This wasn't exactly how I pictured it, but it's not super far off. Do you think she's building up to become an adversary?
No. I don't think that she is. I think that she, because I feel like she's an antagonist, yes. In that her and the Doctor are not and will never be on the same page in terms of how to exist. But I feel like they respect each other enough to where she's never going to go out of her way to try to stop the Doctor. Like the whole idea behind this alley is essentially every time the Doctor destroys a group of aliens or like wrecks stuff on Earth, she goes in and like brings those people into this place and says, "Hey, I know that you've been abandoned by your people, but and you probably can't get back, but there's a place for you." And I think that is why, because it's very Doctor-esque to do that. So I think that's why she'll never be like a really big antagonist.
Yeah, but I think that makes her so much more. I agree. I think that can make her very more interesting than any adversary,
right?
Too, because we've had enough enemies of the Doctor. I mean, me even points out some of your greatest enemies are beside you here. What are the races that we see? We see a Cyberman being operated on by an Ood.
Yeah.
Weirdest thing I've seen.
We see a Jadoon.
We see two Jadoon that are they're security for the place. We saw a Santaran.
A Solarian, I believe we saw.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
I can't remember if there were any other ones, but a nice little tour through
We saw a
Modern
handful
Who.
that I didn't even recognize.
Yes, and they may have been originals.
Yeah, like the Bloodbot.
Yes.
You saw it here first.
Just to clarify, if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, a Bloopbot is basically the NBC's Grimm. It's like the big bad wolf, but a humanoid werewolf.
Yeah.
Not quite a werewolf because it has nothing to do with the moon,
Right,
but a humanoid wolf.
Sure.
Guy.
A wolf man,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
will.
Yes,
All right.
there you go.
Yeah.
So this all builds towards what me is basically accusing Riggsy of killing this woman as a cover to get the doctor there.
Right.
She played them. She intentionally, because she's studying who the doctor affects,
Yeah.
so she knows Riggsy she probably is completely aware that Riggsy has their number.
Right.
And if he wakes up and there's a tattoo that's counting down on the back of his neck, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And gets them there and basically has this crazy elaborate plan to get the doctor to put his hand in this machine.
Too elaborate. Too elaborate.
Like, basically, all of that was to get a teleporter bracelet on the doctor.
Yeah.
I mean,
Not like she couldn't like have just like reached over and like slapped it on him.
like they go in for a handshake and bam. Like anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like that she knows him so well that she knows that he needs a mystery to like become involved.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if it would have just been like, "Hey, doctor, I have a tattoo," blah, then it would have just then if no mystery, it would have been an easy fix, or it would have been something that he would have just let go.
Well, I think the issue is more that she couldn't have just like called him up, even if she
Right.
had the phone number, or like found him and been like, "Doctor, I need to talk to you." He would have left. I don't think
he would have.
But that's the implication.
I think because we have this he's lost track of her thing,
Yeah.
I think if she had called, he would have come. Because he had lost track of her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think he would have been there. I think she didn't mean... I really believe that Me did not intend for whatever ended up happening.
Right.
But also that the trap that she had set was not such... Whatever it ends up being, it's probably she made a deal with someone and it turned out to be the Daleks. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Well, let's get into they.
Yeah.
Whoever they is. We have me and they.
Before we get away from May or Me, I just want to point out that the costuming department, I'm sorry, May or Me is an amazing costume, an amazing look.
I know. Even though I know what May or Me is. I kept thinking you were saying May or Me.
No.
I'm like, no, Agent May. That's not the show. Why are you confusing me, Yael?
Me, the mayor. Is that better?
You're
Sure.
the mayor?
Whatever. Amazing costume.
John Mayer wasn't in this episode.
I hate you both. Go on.
So, I'm sorry.
No,
Her costumes were great. They were. Is I believe your point.
Censoring my thoughts. Go on.
So, what do we know about they? Whoever they are, I don't know what else to call them.
Okay.
Mystery group number 7.
Yep.
MG7, yeah.
The young girl, who can see into the future, can't see.
She can see into the past.
She can see both.
Okay.
That's the idea. Is when she switched
Yeah,
faces, she could see.
Right.
The chat roll, I mean, basically has the same opinion that I had immediately upon watching it, which is
It's Time
is
Lords.
they the Council of Gallifrey?
Yeah. Except for one person who said they might be giants. If you could make your May or Me questions, they could say that. Yeah. Is it the okay? So
it seems it's the simplest explanation.
Right.
There are two simple explanations, and it's Gallifrey or it's the Daleks. I don't think it's the Daleks because they're not this subtle.
Right.
There was another suggestion.
Oh, yeah?
It was the Sisterhood of Karn.
Sisterhood of Karn. But he
like,
would go to
actively
them.
went to them.
Like, he visited them at the beginning of the season actively of his own free will.
Right, and they told him that he had to go deal with Davros.
Right.
Right. Well, we do know that, but they also had the dial.
His confession.
Yeah, confession dial.
Yes, but then he had it, and she needed it back. Me took it back. Just throwing
So
in...
by the end of this episode, right now,
Yeah.
Me has the dial, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the Doctor's been teleported away. Me has the dial. We know that Davros wanted it. The Master, Missy wanted it.
Everyone
Missy had
wanted
it.
Yeah.
Missy had it. I guess because we don't even know what it does, except that it's supposed to be his last will and testament.
And it can
Right.
only be opened after his death.
Yes.
And that it's supposed to be given to his best friend,
Yes.
Missy.
In theory, is Missy
Well, at this point, Missy's...
his only.
Yeah. Clara's dead.
I mean, technically, you could go to like 1930 and give it to Amy.
No, you
Or you
can't.
go to
There's
a
a
par-
time lock or
Yeah.
something.
You go to Parallel Universe and give it to Rose. What are you talking about? The
Someone
third
should give it to
JP...
Donna. She'll never know what to do.
Yes,
with
seriously. The third
be
JP
like,
says
"Who
it's
are
either
you?"
the Time Lords or the Daleks.
And that's
yes.
what I mean. Like, those are the obvious choices. I really hope it is Gallifrey. There's the Time Lords, because it's been enough time. I think at this point that we know they're coming back
Do we?
eventually.
Right.
So Jacob in the chat says it always could be a surprise, but Kern has another week before showing up for sure. I think
The Sisterhood?
Sisterhoods, yeah.
Well, I think that there's we didn't get them at the beginning of this season for no reason.
Sarvis, the Buck says, I can't wait for it to just turn out to be full of jelly babies. Absolutely.
It'd be cute.
That would be funny.
It would be really funny. It would be so Doctor Who.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd also have a lot of very furious people. But
Yeah.
so
Sorry.
what I was saying was, I think that Gallifrey we've been teased with Gallifrey
Yeah.
for 2 seasons now, right? We know we will eventually get back there, because you don't dangle this out there without eventually paying it off. Whether that's this season, next season, or 2 more seasons down the line, I don't know. It's possible that Moffat is playing a very long game. He's not one to hold to... Like, he could go for that. But I think that it's the right time, because Doctor Who is... the show is ready for a shift. The Doctor is... like... I'm not sure what the next companion looks like still in this last of the Time Lords mentality and setup. I think that the show is set up for a big not tonal shift, but a shift within the concept.
Right.
That still has the Doctor, it still has him going on adventures through time and space and getting into all kinds of trouble.
Yeah.
With a companion or 2 along for the ride. But to do it with either the Council sending him places or chasing him, or he has to do it, it's all on Gallifrey.
Right.
Is all the similar concept, but different at the same time. And that is a way to reinvent the show. And that's what Doctor Who is really strong at, is as soon as the show starts to feel at all stale, they can easily flip a switch and make it new again, whether that's with a new Doctor, a new companion, or a shift in the direction of the show.
Yeah.
Right.
Doctor Who has that possibility.
Yeah.
So I know we're running out of time. We should end to predictions soon. But Shadrach Del Monte in the chat says, and I say this is what he says. I do not confirm this. I do not confirm this as a spoiler. He says that Moffat has, in the synopsis, said that Gallifrey is back.
Okay.
Take that for what it is.
So rumor.
Moffat, rule number one.
We'll
Moffat
talk about
lies.
what we saw in the preview in a bit when we get past the predictions, which I consider a spoiler wall for the next on. We only have a few minutes, so real quick, what else did you guys? Was there any other standout moments in this episode? Because I want to give some time for predictions.
Someone says Tari's the new companion.
Yeah!
I'll take it.
My dreams came true.
Does that mean we get to be like adjunct companions, like where we like come in for like adventures like once or twice?
You guys could be my Vax and Strap.
Guys,
Vax and Bastra.
if anything, I'm Jenny, but more importantly, no, I'm busy hanging out with Captain Jack.
Strax?
Yep. It's not your night.
No,
You can be Bastra.
We should head into predictions.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Yeah, Sylvia noticed my shirt because I'm wearing a High Council of Gallifrey
Nice.
Absolutely.
shirt. Califrabraxtitorius. I'm not even close. I apologize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the Grim panel all over again.
Anyway, so in the preview for next week, we saw a planet seemingly devoid of people. And basically what we heard is that it is that is designed to scare the Doctor. And the only other person that we saw in the preview was a mysterious man in a white robe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Could very easily be a Time Lord robe.
Could also very easily be something we have not met yet.
Yes, absolutely. We do know that next week is the first in another two-parter.
But this was a two-parter.
No, it was not.
It was a to be continued.
Basically because it ended on a cliffhanger.
Is it
So
possible that it's a three-parter?
in a sense,
Yeah.
I guess it is a three-parter.
Okay.
But the next two episodes are called Heaven Sent and Hell Bent.
Right.
Or Hell Bent, whatever order it's in.
Yeah.
Very clear. And it is considered officially the next two episodes as one story.
Right.
This episode was considered by official Doctor Who, to be one story.
Right.
All right. I'm going to disagree and say it's a three-parter, but that is all.
Yeah, because Doctor Who doesn't have episodes. They also break it down into stories. So like this season only had like
I know.
5 stories. No, I'm just
I
clearing it up
understand.
for anyone else who may be confused. It's not just about you, Yael.
Nope. Everyone in the chat is agreeing. It's a three-parter. Go on. Thanks, guys. Also, you will tweet at them where they can find the shirt.
Yes.
Everyone wants to know. Go on.
I bought it at San Diego Comic-Con.
Great.
So go to Comic-Con, everyone.
Great.
But don't buy your tickets when I'm buying them.
Jillian Buss in the chat says that it reminds them of the Hotel episode with Matt Smith.
Yes. I was going to say that in my prediction.
Yeah, it very well could play that role. I think that's going to just be the starting point.
Right.
And we're like, I would say, for prediction, just like before the half-hour mark of next week's episode, we get a big shift that like makes it not even about that anymore.
Right.
And reveals either, and we'll get the reveal by the end of the first episode who we're dealing with, and then the finale will be dealing with whatever that implies, which I maintained the prediction before is the High Council of Gallifrey.
Now, just to clarify on terms of scheduling, there's a new episode this upcoming Thanksgiving weekend.
Yes.
Because there's no Thanksgiving, or at least not this Thanksgiving, in England.
In London, yes. There is a new Doctor Who this week. So that you guys know, we, however, will be time shifted due to the holiday because of a lot of travel and just schedule availability for the studios and all of that. We will be taping this show next Monday night, not tomorrow, obviously. We will be taping it Monday night, very late at 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So once again, we'll be taping it the Monday following. So that will be November 30th at 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Which means if you are in the UK, just wake up early.
Yeah, I wish we could have you guys all join live. I know it's super late, but the show will be available on iTunes and SoundCloud
6 a.m.
and
6 a.m.,
YouTube by like immediately after that. So whatever time you can get to it the next day. That's just realistically what we had to do to get the show in. So that was the soonest we could do.
Yep.
Okay. Any last thoughts before we close out here, guys?
I just got a quote. EJ Matter in the chat who says, Yael's always right. Also, guys, Clara may be dead.
We did lose. We did.
Just take
No,
it.
I said there's no moment of silence for Clara.
But just enjoy the music.
No,
It's 10 puppies.
Clara's gone. Jenna Coleman did a fantastic job. She is an amazing performer. I'm sure that we know it's not the last we've seen of her because she's going to be playing Queen Victoria next year.
But also we know that there's going to be definitely holograms, memories, or something of the sort.
Yes, there's
no
a
way
number of ways that Jenna Coleman can return. I can't imagine that like she's not going to come back for an anniversary show.
Right.
Like whenever we do the Tennant Smith Capaldi adventure,
The 75th anniversary.
not that far away. I would say probably 55th.
Yeah. Or 60th.
I also think though, but this season we will see a memory of hers.
Yeah. And I still maintain my big prediction: Stormageddon for the next companion. Hashtag we want Stormageddon. Use it on Twitter. Hashtag we want Stormageddon. Let's get it out there.
Yeah, I'm
right.
gonna flip a table in a sec.
Okay, guys. Until next week, Yael Tygiel, where can everyone keep up with you?
Everyone can keep up. I am not speaking. It's too late. At Twitter, at Yael Tygiel, YaelTygiel.
And I'm Tauri J. Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Tauri J. It's TaurijAY.
And once again, thank you guys so much for joining us. It's been great to be able to talk about this episode, especially. Like I felt like I needed to discuss it with people, and discussing with all of you is great. You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Zach Wilson, ThatZachWilson, and also here at AfterBuzz on a whole bunch of shows, including Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., The Muppets. Both of those are on hiatus, but we'll be back soon. I'll be talking about The Leftovers tomorrow night. Until next week, guys, I'm Zach Wilson, and thanks for geeking out with us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
We want Stormageddon!
The views expressed herein are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.